Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we're asking which Primarch would fit better into the current Imperium between Jaghatai Khan and Corvus Corax. No real need for a spoiler warning today as we're just having a general lore talk, but just keep in mind I may mention events from across the Warhammer 40k lore. However, with that said, let's just jump straight in. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, we went back and took another look at the prophecy of Primarch returns from the novel Ashes of Prospero. How it had in fact appeared to have correctly predicted that Lionel Johnson would be the first loyal Primarch to return, which of course he did during the Arcs of Omen event. And well, there were two more loyal Primarchs clearly referenced in that prophecy alongside L. Johnson as well. The Warhawk Jaghatai Khan and the Raven Lord Corvus Corax, possibly implying that these two Primarchs will be next in line for returns to the Imperium as well. And so today, I wanted to ask the question of who would fit in with the current situation the best. Which of those two Primarchs would get along with Guilliman and L. Johnson easier? Who would respond to the state of the Imperium better? And whose tactics and presence could provide the biggest benefit? It's a tough one for me, because I absolutely love both of these Primarchs, and in thinking about it, there really isn't much between them. Both of them very similar in a lot of ways when you really take the time to look. Let's begin with their relationships with Guilliman and L. Johnson. When it comes to Jaghatai, there's absolutely nothing in the lore with Jaghatai and either of them, at least that I can remember. We get a brief reference that Guilliman greatly respected the Kargan's abilities, but that he didn't make the cut for his vaunted Dauntless Few. So it's really down to personal opinion on what we know about their personalities. As much as I love Jaghatai, we do have to remember he is very much a breed apart, wanting to be separate, free, left to do his own thing, be his own master. And with a brother who truly loved him like Sanguinius, we still saw moments where even the Angel had to bite his tongue a bit, found himself getting a bit annoyed with the Kargan and his unique ways. So if that still happens with the Angel, we have to admit it would absolutely transpire with Guilliman and L. Johnson, who know Jaghatai far less. Guilliman would be pretty good at understanding Jaghatai's differences, using him to his strengths, giving him that free rein. However, there would be times that Jaghatai quite simply would disagree with him and flat out say no. And that would rile Guilliman, no doubt. The Kargan can be very stubborn when he wants to be. And as for L. Johnson, he and Jaghatai would share similar aspects as warriors and swordsmen, respect each other's prowess upon the battlefield. But I doubt they'd interact too much, both of them very aware of their differences, and both probably realising that less is more, that they would grate on each other after too long. However, overall, I think they would all get on fine. Guilliman being pretty good at accepting his brother's differences, and L. Johnson more interested in doing his own thing. Now, as for the Raven Lord, we actually have seen him get along with Guilliman pretty well previously, with the both of them appearing to cherish the little time together that they had between campaigns within Corax's Primarch series novel. And Guilliman would have learnt a lot regarding Corax and their differences during this time. Not only from a tactical perspective, how best to utilise him, but also the personal. So although there'd be no major issues with Jaghatai, I think Corax has the slight edge in regards to his relationship with Rabute. With L. Johnson, I think it's pretty much the same again. The Lion preferring to focus on his own thing, and respecting Corax for his ability as a warrior. Pleased that another loyal brother has returned, though I'm not sure how much time he'd have for his guerrilla-style warfare. That said, it would be quite interesting to see these two discussing their warp nature, however, with L. Johnson now receiving apparent enhanced psychic ability, and Corax the same, as seen within the eye. The Raven Lord and the Kargan were both around for Guilliman's appointment as Lord Commander, so I don't foresee any issues there. And they both supported his implementation of the Codex Astartes as well. So I really don't think either of them would rock the boat for Guilliman in any way, as long as he didn't try meddling with them too much, which I don't think he would. So personality-wise with their brothers, there's not much between them. I think I'd have to give a slight edge to Corax, with that previously seen history and fond relationship with Guilliman. Now, who would respond the better to the state of the galaxy and the Imperium? Well, that's an interesting factor to consider. The Kargan, of course, had a difficult relationship with his father, opposed to the Imperial truth. And so it's possible he may look around and see the mess that's become of the galaxy, and not be too surprised that it was bound to end in disaster. However, he certainly wouldn't take any satisfaction in it, and I think he would be dismayed at what's become of the Imperium. Not so much the religious aspect, but simply the squalor and pitiful lives the people lead. The fall from the Golden Age, the corruption that exists within its power base. And Jaghatai absolutely hates chaos, so you could rest assured he would waste no time in taking the fight to them, especially when he finds out Chagoris itself has been invaded. And it's hard to know quite how he'd react to the Emperor's situation. I think a definite sorrow, but I really have no idea what he'd think of the apparent ascension to godhood. A tragic irony, most likely, but he would definitely handle it the easiest out of all the loyal Primarchs who could return, due to that more distant relationship. Now, Corax, on the other hand, appeared to have a very good relationship with his father. In my opinion, one of the most favoured sons. From their very first meeting, the Emperor sat and listened to Corax for hours, answering all his questions. And when Corax returned to the throne world after Istvan, the Emperor spoke with him, despite being stuck upon the Golden Throne. A blessing even Sanguinius, Russ and Jaghatai didn't receive when they arrived. And it was in that conversation that the Emperor entrusted Corax with the secrets of the Primarch project, the knowledge he would need to rebuild his legion. A true sign of implicit trust from the Emperor. So Corax would definitely be dismayed to see what's become of his father upon the throne. And he definitely would be a Primarch who would do whatever the Emperor asked of him. The worship aspect is tricky, but I think Corax would be a bit more accepting of it in a way, despite absolutely not liking it, than say Guilliman. A bit more in line with L. Johnson's reaction, for example. However, the corruption across the Imperium would definitely anger him too, possibly reminding him of his early life upon deliverance. We've also seen Corax turn his grief at the end of the heresy into a righteous anger, hunting his traitor brothers within the Eye of Terror. So I think he would be greatly angered by what's become of the galaxy, the success that Chaos has had. And I think there's a possibility he may be a tad more emotional in his response to it than Jaghatai would be. And so for me, I think Jaghatai gets the edge when it comes to the larger picture of the galaxy and reacting to the current state of the Imperium. As disgusted as the Kargan would be, I think he'd take it in his stride far easier, whereas there'd be a lot more anger and sorrow from the Raven Lord. And so, whose presence and tactics would help the Imperium the most? Again, another real close one here, as there's definite similarities between the two. Despite the apparent surface level differences, the lightning-quick hit-and-run preference of Jaghatai certainly compares in a way to Corax's guerrilla style of war, striking from the shadows in ambush before fading away. So both of these styles of war could have similar effects on the larger picture, bring a much-needed new element to the Imperium's campaign against the ruinous powers. Numbers-wise, I'd expect them to be fairly similar. Guilliman's demand with the Ultima founding was for the other bloodline numbers to be evened out, and we don't know for sure, but you have to imagine that they are far closer now than they ever have been previously. And so I guess the deciding factor would be the individual presence of the Primarchs themselves. And for this, although there really isn't much between them, I think I would have to give the slight edge to Jaghatai Khan. Until we get Corax back from the Eye and really get to see how his personality may have changed, I think Jaghatai is going to be by far the safer, surer bet, as we know who and what he is. We can be far more certain on how he'll be, a far more level-headed Primarch in thinking and reacting, despite his anger and temper. At this point, we've seen a Corax consumed with anger and hunting his brothers within the Eye, so much so that he has embraced his warp essence. However, we don't know how much that will affect him still when he returns to the Imperium. Will he still be consumed with this hunt? Will he prioritize hunting his traitor brothers over everything else, over other objectives within a campaign? We just don't know. And as much as Jaghatai may hate them too, I think we know that he wouldn't jeopardize an overall victory. He would make the right decisions when he had to. Again, for Corax, I just don't think we can be as sure just yet, at least given that last appearance fighting Lorgar. So I guess that makes it a 2-1 victory for Jaghatai Khan, making him the better option. For me, Jaghatai doesn't have any lingering grudges with L. Johnson and Guilliman to worry about, and while very different in nature, most likely has their respect for his ability and prowess. I think while being as dismayed as any Primarch by the state of the galaxy, he'd most likely be able to take it within his stride the most out of any loyal Primarch. And he was always opposed to the Imperial truth, a factor that's worth remembering. And tactically and temperament-wise, I think we can just be a little bit surer on what Jaghatai would do over the Raven Lord, at least until proven otherwise. But it's close, it's very close. And honestly, I didn't realise how similar these two Primarchs can be until I really stopped and thought about it. I guess the question is now, is which of the two is it going to be next? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Which of these two Primarchs do you think is the better suited to return to the Imperium next? Which of them would get along with Guilliman and L. Johnson the best? Or at least not cause as many issues? Who out of Jaghatai and Corax would respond to the current state of the Imperium easier? And which of them tactically, and with their presence, could have the greater effect on the wider war? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. A huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too? But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.